Farmer, wife, goat, good. Dog, sound it out.
RTI stands for Response to Intervention, and it's a multi-tier approach to helping students that are struggling or behind to catch up with their peers.
A farmer and his wife planted a garden.
Our RTI process here at HARP is seamless. It has made it to where it really is integrated into our everyday. Our RTI students that we have, we're taking observations on them each day, doing progress monitoring so that we can keep up with their progress. So it doesn't feel like extra, it just feels like we're looking at this standard and these kids aren't meeting it, so what can we do to help them meet it?
It starts with Tier 1, which is whole group instruction. It's also small group instruction, but it's what happens in the classroom. It's just strong research-based instruction, and about 80% of our kids will succeed with Tier 1 instruction only. And then Tier 2 is what we layer on Tier 1 for students that have other needs. And so we use our data to track them, and we put them in a specific type of intervention group. First, we do that within the classroom. And then if the children are still not making adequate progress, we pull them out into an intervention Tier 2 outside of the classroom. So I think us understanding Tier 2 and how it's the responsibility of the classroom teacher first and foremost before we look at pulling students is where we had to start. About 5% of your students will need Tier 3. That is the most intensive interventions that we provide in our building. So both of our instructional facilitators do this type of intervention. And this is kids that have Tier 1 instruction, Tier 2 instruction in the classroom, and then we are a third layer. So we feel like if we're providing them all of these interventions that they should be able to catch up and be proficient.
Mm-hmm. I'm pulling out like man and fan and pan and then we write the words.
Our RTI team is our administrators, our resource teacher, our speech pathologist, our counselor, both instructional facilitators, and then the classroom teacher involved. And this is a very valuable time where all of our RTI team comes together. We talk about the student.
His cancer is currently in remission as of February 2019. And he was also in foster care that started in September of 2018.
And then we all together come up with some ideas to support the classroom teacher. Have you tried this strategy? Maybe you need to do more with the ABC chart, or we just give them specific things that they can do along with specific assessments that they can use to progress monitor their students. Okay, thank you guys for gathering this morning. We have an initial RTI meeting on a student that's new to HARP. He's in first grade, so we're going to let Ms. Moreno just tell us a little bit about him and some of your concerns and maybe some strength areas and how we can help you today.
Okay, so the student, he enrolled almost less than a month ago. He has adjusted really well in our classroom. The area of concern right now is reading. He is a non-reader. He does have some strengths. I did some of the math skills checklist, and he does know his letters. He knows his sound, so that's good. He is a hard worker, so he tries really hard in my small group. I think the area right now that we need to focus on is just him trying to blend some of those words.
If a student is going to be pulled for interventions, we have an RTI packet that we're very proud of, that we really are able to track students about every 3 weeks. We progress monitor, and we just have a system that really shows change over time in that student's learning. He needs to work on looking at first letter and blending, so those new blending boards that we got in, just working on CVC words, and the nonsense word seems to really help.
We have always used the phrasing RTI. Everybody's familiar with it, but I don't know that we really had a depth of understanding for just what it means and how much value it can bring to setting each child up for success. I really saw a shift in our thinking beginning about 3 years ago with the recognition that really RTI was compliance. When it was very much still what I would consider a compliance piece, we did it because the law said we had to. There was no consistent timeline, and that is a huge part of this, where you are coming to the table with that initial meeting, but then you walk away with a plan in place for that child, where all these resident experts have had a voice in building this plan for this child. You also walk away with a timeline. When is the follow-up? Because we have to stay on top of next step.
So as a team, let's talk about what our next steps are for him. Since he is a non-reader, which is a year behind or more, I think that we need to go ahead and look at putting him in probably a Tier 3 intervention group. At the end of the 9 weeks, we meet on every student that's in RTI, and it's like a check-in. They bring data, and we talk about, what are you seeing? Are the right interventions in place? Are there any things that we need to do different for that student? Thank you guys, 4th grade team, for gathering with us today for our end of the 9 weeks check-in on all of our RTI kids. Okay, now we're going to talk about your student, which is a monitor student. And he started in Tier 3 in 2nd grade. And then when he was in 3rd grade, he caught up and was able to just have Tier 2 in the classroom for that little extra push. So how is he doing?
He's doing pretty good. I think I'm going to keep him in, not push him back into Tier 2. I did some assessments. I took the running record, the teacher college of that one. And it was interesting. He's like really good on fluency, decoding, like he knows his words. And then his comprehension is where he struggles. And then when I ask him a question, his answer is always like, yes. Like it's almost like he's like answering like, is that right? I don't know. But his fluency was great. His comprehension was not so great. So I did the BAS on the same level. And again, his fluency was great. He self-corrected some, and then his like within text answers were great. Beyond the text was a little bit, but then like the inferring was the part that like he really struggled on. But he did, he was instructional O, so he kind of stayed the same. His map data has kind of stayed the same, so I'm really kind of watching just to see if we're at the point where we're like stopping. So I still say I think we should still keep monitoring. I did the syllable survey again just to kind of see if making sure these running records matched. Can you know, and he was fine on multiple syllable words. Like, I mean, he knew, you know, he might have missed like 6 out of 50, but.
And I know you guys do a lot of small group interventions, so maybe it's kind of, I'm hearing a theme here, like something that maybe we could start pulling just comprehension focus groups.
But I think what you do for homework is really good too with the response prompts.
Yes,
because those are some higher level where they're asking to infer.
And he does like
that stuff, so.
he does his homework, he reads at night.
When you come together for one of these conversations and you have all of the different members of the team bringing their area of expertise with total focus on this child, then you're looking at academics, you're looking at the social and emotional learning of this child, and you're putting together a plan that provides supports in whatever way and whatever areas that any child needs, every individual child.
When I came to Harp in 3rd grade, I wasn't the best reader, but then my teacher put me in this group and it got easier to read because they were helping me with different things.
RTI definitely helps the classroom teachers as they start over with a new group of kids in August. They're not starting with blank slates. They open up a folder, and if this has been an RTI student, they have data, they have a record of every intervention that this child's ever received, what worked, what didn't work, and it gives you a paper trail that you are giving kids personalized instruction. It's really easy to say, I'm giving these kids interventions, I'm giving these kids research-based instruction, but to have evidence of it and to have that all documented in one place so that you're not looking in every different direction. Hey, do you know about this kid? Hey, have you heard about this kid? Were you this kid's teacher? It's all there compiled right for you. It really is super user friendly, and that's why it doesn't feel like an extra step for us. It just feels like part of our everyday.
collectively, as a school community, everybody has risen to the challenge. It also provides the support that teachers have needed to know that you're not alone. We're not just giving lip service to that either, that there is support for you. And it's one thing to say it, the RTI puts action to those words. And so you come to the table, and then we figure out what do we need to do? What are our next steps for each child?
We'll meet again in 9 weeks unless you need to visit sooner.
Thank you very much.